Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here to talk to you today about the 4 R's of Hollywood. Those are remakes, reboots, revival, and ripoff. A remake, pretty much that just takes the same story as the original, and it has a new cast, but pretty much the same characters, and it's mainly like targeted for like a new audience. Finally, the last R of Hollywood, remakes. So the thing you're hearing right now is new audio. Everything you're gonna hear in the past is gonna be from about like 2 years ago, except for when I talk about Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer. That will be new. So it's finally here. Something I've been starting since like one of the first videos I put out, the 4 R's of Hollywood and everything. And finally, I am done. And the reason why it took me so long, because when I originally did this, I talked for 4 hours straight, maybe a little bit more, and I didn't even realize it and stuff. And so I had to break the video down and everything, because there's no way I can upload 4 hours and stuff. And so yeah. So at some point in this, when you're hearing me talk, you're gonna hear me like talk really fast about the plot of a show, and I mean really fast. Cause years ago I was trying to like hurry and get it out because my mouth was tired. Alrighty, here you go. Now, not all remakes come from movies in terms of the TV shows. Some remakes come from other countries. There are other countries making remakes of American stuff, and there are Americans making remakes of stuff from other countries. Hey! One great thing about remakes is that most remakes come from foreign properties, foreign television shows from other countries. Only problem is that they never really feel like the original show from another country. And this turns out to be dire because most of them end up flopping and everything. Now there are 2 foreign remakes that made into American series that I haven't seen yet, but I've seen the foreign version of it. Filthy Rich is an amazing crime type drama, family drama, kind of like a soap from New Zealand. I think it lasted for 5 seasons maybe, I'm not really sure, but I remember I watched it and I just like fell in love with that series. It pretty much is like this. There's a man, he had a couple of kids from other women, and he was this rich guy, and his wife didn't know that he made kids from these other women. So when he died, they got some of his inheritance. That's how she found out. So then the kids come to stay with her. And it's all these like, drama, crime, mob family type, shenanigan type stuff. There's this one girl who was a stripper, and she's his legit daughter. There's this black guy who is his son. He comes from a poor family. There is, there is this one dude who he gets in a car accident, and so his best friend takes his place and pretends to be him because he wants to be rich. And also in this series, there's like this one guy who believes he's his son, but it turns out that his mom in the series isn't really his mom, and thank God for that, because they have kind of like this incest thing going on, and that's really gross and nasty. So he's not really her son. I forgot if he's really related to that guy or not. It's been a long time since I watched this, but it's like a really good drama. Now I plan on rewatching it again because it's on Hulu, the New Zealand version of it. But pretty much, yeah, it's just like all this soap opera type stuff. People trying to kill people more for money. Other people trying to get the other child's inheritance. A lot of like corruption and like sneaky, underhanded type stuff. Lies and betrayals. It's a really good show. Now they made an American adaptation for it on Fox with the same name, Filthy Rich. starring Kim Cattrall. I have never watched that. I planned on watching it, but I never did. And it got canceled even before I could even start watching it. It only lasted for one season. Another series is on Netflix. It's an Australian show called Sisters. Basically, what that is that there's a doctor, and he decides to take his semen sample and impregnate all these unfertilized eggs, about 100 of them, I say. And so he's really old and he's really kooky in the head, so he kind of gets away with that because he's dying, he's kooky, and people just like, just leave him alone. So, of course, the plot of this series is trying to find all those 100 people and trying to reunite them. Be like, hey, we're all related. Because there's a girl in the main series who's trying to like reunite everybody. And it turns out one of her sisters is actually her former best friend. And so the plot of the show revolves around these three sisters mainly. One is the main girl who's known this dude is her father all along. The other girl who used to be her former best friend and having marriage problems. And this other girl who they just meet, who I don't know really about her. She's just kind of like off in her own world kind of thing. She's nice and everything, but she doesn't really interact that too much with the other two. The other two have more history. The former best friend, she's having marriage problems. She starts to cheat on him. She discovers that she's bisexual and everything. And so she's having all these marital, like, drama type stuff going on in her life. It's kind of like a comedy drama. But then there's this other girl. She's coming in because she thinks she might be related to him, but she's really looking just for money and inheritance. And so but they suspect she might be a fraud. So when she finally does a DNA test on herself, she's all like, it doesn't really matter, I'm a fraud, blah, blah, because I'm not even really related to y'all. Cause I took a hair sample from like this brush and it shows I'm not even related to this dude. Here's the big plot of this twist story. It turns out the hair was not a sample from the old man. It was a sample from the girl who grew up with this dude originally. And so since her DNA doesn't match with his DNA, it turns out that girl that's the main focus of this show, she's not even related to this dude, and she thought she's been related to him her entire life. So she's not even part of this like 100 clan thing. But we don't know how this is going to end because it got canceled after one season in Australia. So a huge cliffhanger. It's on Netflix. Watch it. It's fun. But then they made an American remake of it with Emily Osment. And so like it was on Fox again, and same plot of the Australian one. The only difference is it's now an hour-long drama. And before this show even came out, this was right after the Me Too movement, and people was furious. They're all like, how can this man take his DNA and fertilize all these eggs? It's not funny, it's blah, 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 and we don't want this. So basically, the show got canceled after one season because nobody watched it. I haven't watched it yet. I plan on watching it, but I never did. I'm not really into Fox no more, so I really don't watch that much stuff on Fox. But yeah, it got canceled after one season, so I do plan on watching it to see how different it is from the Australian version. But yeah, other reboots that didn't make it to TV was Not Another Teen TV Show, which is supposed to be a remake or a rebooted type version of Not Another Teen Movie. I actually saw the pilot for that. It's not good. I'm so glad it didn't come into fruition. Alison Brie is actually in it. I think she plays like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer type person. But it wasn't very good. And it's kind of like, that's why I wish all these other reboots, if you know it's not that good, don't put it on TV. I Know What You Did Last Summer, the TV series, was a huge commercial bomb, a flop, a failure. The TV show came on Amazon, and it just was not, Amazon Prime, and it just was not very good whatsoever. It was nothing like the movies. It's kind of like the book series, but not really, you know what I'm saying? It tries to be a little bit of both, and it just fails at both. The villain, the actual killer, it has like the lamest excuse ever. The actual killer is it was just bizarre for this person to be the killer. And then not only that, but the way this killer found out that, because see what it does is that It revolves around a group of kids, and two of them are twins, and one's out of control, one's not. And then they accidentally swap places, and the group of friends don't know who they're with. And when one twin sees the other walking in the street in the middle of the night, she literally runs her over to kill her because she hates her and stuff. But we don't really know that at first. But then it was kind of like when you're watching it, it's kind of like, how do you not know? Because she literally saw her and then hit the gas harder and stuff. Now, I've made millions of videos about this last year when it came out, so go find those. But anyway, so she's now pretending to be the dead twin. And here comes the whole killer. I know you did last summer. And so people are dying left and right. And it was just a mess of a show. A lot of the kills we don't get to see. They happen off screen. A lot of the motives as to why the killer wanted to do what they wanted to do makes no sense. The way some people died was really too odd and stuff. And, and it's just all the characters. Nobody's likable. And then the one that is likable, they killed him off very early. The plot is very confusing, too convoluted. One character who's main, you think this person dies. They've been on ice for over a month, and it turns out, oh, they're alive after getting stabbed constantly over and over. And it's like, how are you alive and everything? And, then the final girl decides, you know what? The killer is in love with me so much. I'm going to decide to be with her. And it's kind of like, wait, what? So this person's literally killing all your friends, blackmailing your dad, and you're going to go be with this person. And like, is it out of fear? Is it just you love this person? Like, what's going on, And the way the killer finds out that the twin isn't the right twin is because her hashtags are off. You heard me. Her hashtags are off. And then the killer finally explains why she did what she did at the end of the show after the credits, and a long monologue that's just kind of like, what in the world? And the creator was thinking long term. She had no idea what she was doing. This was just terrible in every way, shape, and form. Not to mention the killer never wears a slicker and never uses a hook, like never. Teen Wolf was another like TV adaptation from like a comedy horror type movie from the past, and then they made it more like a Twilight kind of series with I think it was like MTV that probably did, I'm not really sure. Now, Scream the TV series, I consider that a remake and not that of a reboot, mainly because all of the characters are brand new. If it would have been a reboot, they would have just brought in, like, say, like the characters of the past and stuff. But, I guess the same thing can kind of be said about the new Charm, but everybody keeps calling it the reboots. I just call it the reboot as well, even though those characters are once again brand new and everything. However, I believe somebody said, I think I saw a clip where the girls go through like a portal and they're in the dimension of the Hollowell sisters. And so technically that would be considered, I wouldn't necessarily call that a remake really, maybe more like a reboot because it's in that same universe kind of. They just jump in parallel dimensions, But anyway, this show deals with a completely new cast and a different type of killer. It's based on the Scream Ghostface killer, but it's called the Brandon James killer because his face resembles the mask. No, the mask resembles his face, and they couldn't use the costume of the original Scream Ghostface killer because of legal rights and copyright issues and stuff. And so when it comes to this remake, they tried to stay somewhat faithful to that of the original, but make it more modernized, give it more depth and everything. And at first, I was feeling it when I first started watching this, beginning with season 2. But then as time started to go past, I started to feel like this feels a little bit more like Pretty Little Liars. And it's just kind of like the killer, threatening with the phone calls and text messages and stuff. But the killer isn't really killing anybody of interest. It's mostly killing off side characters, recurring characters. And that really annoyed me. You want the main cast to die. It has better stakes. Another problem I had with this is that the cast is way too big. And because of that, they didn't want to get rid of their cast. Another problem I have with the cast is pretty much all white. The only people of color are love interests, and they die. Like, those are the people you kill. Like the one dude who's like the Randy type character, he has two girlfriends that are people of color, one Asian, one black. And they both die in each season. And it's like, that's what you're doing with the people of color, just like getting rid of them, checking them off a list and stuff. So that really annoyed me. I felt that the plots went on for way too long. They could get the reveal of the killer a whole lot sooner than just 10 episodes. I think season two had more episodes, but at the end, you really don't even know who the second killer is, truly, because Kieran was pretending like to be a copycat of the killer. And supposedly there's another one out there. And that killer is supposed to be revealed in this standalone type movie. But the movie just went completely off course and with a new killer and a new motive, and we don't know the actual real Brandon James killer in the second season. So that was a huge letdown. So as a result, it got retooled, and in season three, they brought in a new cast with 6 episodes, the actual Ghostface killer costume. Only problem is that third season was a huge dud. It had more people of diversity, that was a good thing, but it was just a lackluster, bizarre, and confusing storyline. So there's no wonder why it got canceled after 3 seasons and stuff. And in fact, it was never really officially canceled. They just quietly canceled it, and nobody even knows if it's truly canceled, but it's canceled. Miranda is this tall, big, awkward, very socially awkward woman who's very silly and lives in her own little head, her own goofy little head. She she creates, I think, kind of like fruit people that she has, like, kind of like, and she like has like she plays make believe with them. She has all these like cartoony toy type stuff in her room. She works in like kind of like a toy type, not necessarily a toy shop, kind of like a gift shop type place. It has like a lot of weird toys. Basically, she's a big kid who cannot find love. It just doesn't really get along very well with like people who act like more mature than her. She has a very unbearable mother. Her mother just wants her to be married and gives her grandkids. That's all she wants. And her mom gives her a hard time for it. But her mom is also comedic too. All 3 seasons are the same. It's just her interacting with people in a very goofy, silly way. She's very comedic. She's playing like a fictional version of herself. So she's amping up her comedy way, way more than like normal. Because Miranda's a very comedic woman. She likes to repeat the same phrase over and over. Like, she'll be somewhere, she's like, oh, that's a very nice little cup. Cups. I just love saying the word cups. Like, that's how she talks. Like, literally, it's like she likes repeats herself. And it's just like wacky British comedy. You know what I'm saying? Then the show gets canceled, and they give her like 2 specials where one, she's like supposed to get married to the one dude, but then she doesn't, and then she realizes she's in love with the other guy, and then they're supposed to get married, but then something happens, they argue, and then she decides, oh, screw this, I'm gonna start being normal. I'm gonna start acting normal. I'm not gonna act silly no more. And so people think that she's having like a nervous breakdown, but she's really not. She's just done being like a goofball. But then later she realizes that she loves being a goofball, and so she starts being a goofball again. And then the dude tells her, no, like he loves her, and then they get married, and then it ends like that. I Am Cat is all of that, except for she owns like a cat shop because she's lonely and stuff. Now I can't watch more than 20 seconds of this series, no joke. I tried to watch the first season. I tried to just like support Malam's career after the Big Bang Theory, but I just can't get into this show. It's just not very fun. It seems very desperate for laughs and everything. And Malam's a very funny woman, but she's not being herself in this show, and that's the problem I'm having. See, with Miranda was being herself, just more fictional. In this show, Malam is trying her best to be like Miranda, and it's not coming off well because Malam is her. She's not Miranda. Miranda's Miranda. Miranda acting is different from her. Her comedy is different from her. So it's kind of like when she's trying to mimic this woman that she clearly is not, and it's not working out for her. And the show was created by Miranda herself and by Jim Parsons from The Big Bang Theory. And it's kind of like, instead of calling this show Mylum, they're calling it Cat because she has like a cat shop. And so it's kind of like they're not even naming it after the actress. And it's like the other characters on the show, I can tell who's who from the other one, but it's like they're not doing it as good as the other people are. From what I could tell from really quick from what I was watching, they have kind of like this gay kind of dude that's like, he's like the bartender dude from the, not bartender, he's like the guy who owns like that restaurant bar type place from the British show. And he's actually funny. He's actually the funniest person in this entire series. Kiki Pratt plays like her best friend, which is bizarre in this series because their age range is completely different. Kiki has to be at least 10, 15 younger than Mom. So it's kind of like, I don't know why she's playing her best friend in this series because it's kind of like it's just the age range is like completely off. Like on the other show, Miranda, I believe those two are like the same age range. So it makes sense for them to be friends. But on this series, it doesn't make no sense whatsoever. Sadly, okay, here's the thing. I like Marlon Bialik. I've always been a fan of hers. I've always liked her ever since the Blossom days and Big Bang Theory. As of the time of this recording, I Am Kate has now been renewed for a third season. Supposedly it came around in the second season and people said it started getting better. I have no idea because I gave up on it, but I'll probably recheck it back out later on. Now, one remake I like is Containment. It is based off of a Belgian-Dutch television series called Codon. And but I've literally already just talked about this like a few videos ago, so there's really no point in me saying that again. So just go watch that video. I like that one. That was a good one. ABC used to have a show called Mistresses, and that was actually a really good show. I love that show. Well, at least the first 2 seasons. The last 2 seasons sucks because it went over into Canada. Basically, this is I believe it's an Australian show. It's kind of like just like Desperate Housewives, and that's why I watched it. I was looking for a Desperate Housewives like filler because Desperate Housewives had went off the air, and so this show sounds exactly what it is. It's about women having infidelities. No, excuse me. The Savvy character, she cheats on her husband with her friend from work, and then they start to have an affair. The husband finds out, and he leaves her. And then in the second season, the Savvy and her business partner, they start to date. Then he gets hit on by somebody who works at their office. They don't like that. He's trying to tell her to stay away. And then the woman who's hitting on him, she just wants to move up in the business. So she creates a false lawsuit saying that he tried to come on to her and he didn't. And it's her trying to come on to him. So then that all goes around, and then next thing you know, Savvy starts to like, she's pregnant. By the end of about the first season, she's pregnant, and she doesn't even know who her baby daddy is. It could be her husband, it could be her friend from work. She don't know because she gets into a car accident. This storyline was written in because I think Alyssa Milano was actually pregnant in real life, and then she started showing more in the second season. Whew, I'm running out of breath. And so like, okay, so her and Dom, which is her friend from work, they're dating. They start to have problems because she starts to talk more with the guy who got into a car accident with her and caused her to have miscarriage. Dom does not like this. He thinks that this guy is trying to get with her, and he kind of is. And so he cheats on Savvy with the woman who accuses him of like assault and everything. And so then they start dating. Jess is Savvy's sister. She's a minor character in the first season. Basically, she's this wild party girl who just sleeps with any guy she sees, and then she starts like falling in love with this woman, and then they have a relationship for her first time being bi, and then somehow they break up for some reason. I think Jess cheats on her with a dude, and she finds that out, so she breaks up with him. She's never seen again after that season. In the second season, she starts to have a relationship with Savvy's ex-husband. I forget his name right now. So they're kind of like, no, wait. In the second season, she's not dating him. What it is, she's dating this other guy. And this other guy is really rich, and he has a thing for women's shoes. He don't wear them. He just buys them for women. So then those two start dating because she starts to use him for like his shoe collection. But then she ends up falling in love with him. But then her and Harry is Savvy's ex-husband. Those two start interacting because they're brother and sister-in-law, and so they always got along. And so the whole course of the series goes around, and then he realizes, oh wait, I have feelings for Savvy. So as she's about to get married to this dude, he tells her, like, I love you. And she's all like, oh, I love you too. Because apparently she had feelings for him too, and her fiance could see that. So they end up kissing. The fiance ends up leaving, and then Savvy sees that and is heartbroken and leaves because Alyssa Milano left the third season before it filmed because the show went to Canada to save more money. And she had just had a baby, and she wasn't about to leave her family and move to Canada. Karen is a psychiatrist who started having an affair with this married man many years ago, but then they broke things off. The next thing you know, she started making out and doing that with this young guy. The young guy turns out to be the son of the married man who she had an affair with. Anyways, long story short, these two men find out. Then the son, I believe, kills like the dad, or the dad kills son. Somebody kills somebody, and then they go to jail. So then that storyline's over with. So then next thing you know, Karen starts to like explore more of her sexual side. So then she starts taking in this one girl who keeps lying to her, having all these like family drama crap going on with her. And then so it's like, so she's I'm so tired, I can barely talk. That's why I'm messing up right now. I'm trying to also speed through this. I'm trying to hurry up. So anyway, she takes in this one lady who's having problems family-wise and relationship-wise. And so she's counseling her. And then it turns out that she's estranged from her mom. So she tries to get her back with her mom, who lives in a different country. And then so Karen starts, seeing this one dude, and they start doing it. And then it turns out that the girl who she's counseling, that's her, the guy that she's with. So then, oh no. So then when she finds out, she's going to be like totally screwed up. Then next thing you know, when they move on the third season, Karen, she starts to have a relationship with a man and a woman who's in a married relationship. So Karen's like doing both these people at the same time. They both know it because, they're kind of like whatever. And so next thing you know, Karen gets pregnant by the man. And so then this causes problems between the husband and the wife. And so it causes also problems between Karen and the man, but they still want to be together. Anyway, she has the baby, and he wants custody also, but she won't give it to him, so she wants to keep it for herself. Jerry O'Connell pops up in, I think, the fourth season or something like that. And he's taking off his shirt like he always does in every TV show. And so, like literally, he takes his shirts off in every TV show. So anyway, he's like the manny and everything. He's taking care of the kid, but then she ends up getting a new babysitter type person, and the new babysitter person is Tara from The Walking Dead. And Tara turns out to be like really crazy, and she tries to like mimic Karen's life and wants to be her and crap like that. And so Tara is pretending like, well, I forget her real name in this series, but I'm just calling her Tara for now. So anyway, she starts having like online relationship with a bunch of men pretending to be Karen, and Karen's like, oh, how can you do this? I don't want to have a relationship with these men. And so they have it out, and then Karen turns out, oh no, now she has like an HIV, or maybe she has an STD. I can't remember which one, but she has AIDS or something like that. And so she's really sick and dying from that. And then so her and the Walking Dead girl have like a fight because the Walking Dead girl wants to kill herself now because she's like, oh no, I hurt your feelings and stuff like that, and oh no, now I can't live with myself, and I have to go back to The Walking Dead because I'm pregnant too, and then I just had my baby and I have to go back to The Walking Dead. So they have this huge argument, and then so the girl about to commit suicide, jumping out the window. Karen tries to save her, but then trips, falls, and she falls out the window, and she dies. And so it turns out that the actress actually wanted to leave the show, but it don't matter anyway because it was the fourth season, and the show got canceled after that because the show just sucked after the second season. I'm gonna get why it sucked in a minute. I'm trying to speed through this because I'm trying to hurry up because I don't want this to go like an hour or 2 hours. It takes a long time, and y'all got time, I got time, and you know what I'm saying. So anyway. Then there's April. April is just a single mother. She thinks her husband's dead. She had no idea her husband cheated on her. She's raising their kid all by herself. Then next thing you know, knock on the door. this lady comes to April, be like, hey, you know what? I cheated on you with your husband a long time ago, and yeah, we have a kid together, and yeah, you gave me child support. And Karen's going like, well, not Karen, but April's kind of like, what? So it turns out that when Karen was not Karen, but when April was married to her husband, he cheated on her, had a baby with another woman. And so now this other woman is living the poor life, and April's living the rich kind of life. And so she kind of like helps out with their son much as she can. Then things get stranger when it turns out her dead husband isn't really dead. He faked his death because the mob is looking for him. So he tells her, hey, you know, don't tell nobody, because if you tell somebody, then you won't get whatever that check is you get from like your dead spouse and stuff. So then she won't get that, and she won't be able to pay her bills. Then April starts getting a relationship with this guy. This guy turns out to be an undercover cop, and because he suspects that her husband is still alive, he's trying to find him because he's trying to get to the mob people. Then it turns out that the woman who had the affair a long time ago with her husband, she knew that this dude was alive this whole time because he's been staying with her. So she's pissed, and April's ready to throw down because she's all like, you know, how you gonna try to take money from me and my child, saying that your child needs it, and then next thing you know, this little scumbag is still alive, and you knew this the whole time. So, so then I'm so tired. So then, towards the end of that, I think that season or whatever, or maybe the next season, I think it's probably the end of the second season, yeah. It turns out, because in the second season, her husband completely disappears, but he doesn't pop up no more. And the next thing you know, the mob actually does kill him. And so the daughter finds out, that, oh no, daddy's been alive this whole time, and mama, you didn't tell me, blah, 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 stuff like that. So then they have arguments and stuff and problems in the third and fourth season. Then it turns out the undercover cop reveals that, hey, you know, like, you know, at first, you know, I was playing you because that was my job, but now I'm like in love with you and stuff like that. And so can we just be together? So then they have problems and stuff like that, and I think they end up breaking up. And that dude is Lincoln from the 100, so he has to go back to the 100. So that's why he had to leave. Then in the third season, April starts to she takes in her baby, her ex-husband's child from another mother, brother or something like that. Does that make sense? Okay. Her daughter's half brother's uncle. She takes him in because he has no place to stay. He turns out to be an alcoholic and everything. She tries to get his life back together, but then he can't stop drinking the sauce, and then next thing you know, they fall in love with each other, and it's kind of like, ugh, gross. Because, like, you know, your daughter's like brother, that's his uncle, and that's kind of weird, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, so she ends up falling in love with some other dude, and they start having like this, oh, where they want they be thing with her and this other guy. And then he starts to be a little bit aggressive towards her daughter, but then, you know, I think she ends up with the uncle or something like that. So, gross. Anyway, who am I left with? Oh, Savvy. So Savvy, after seeing her sister and her ex-husband kiss, she has a nervous breakdown. She leaves, but like I said, Melissa wanted to leave the show, so that's why she left, and that's why that happened. So anyway, this is when the show starts to suck. Now I can stop talking really fast. The show started to suck because after Melissa left, you know, the show got less interesting because even though the show revolves around 4 main women, it's really Melissa's character that was like the main person. And so they kept teasing us, thinking about, oh, maybe Melissa's character will come back. She was never coming back, but they kept teasing that for the 3rd and 4th season. So they start bringing in new characters to be more like these desperate housewives, mistresses type people. All these shenanigans start happening with Jess, because now Jess has now been bumped up to like the main person of the show, which makes no sense because she was never like that in the 1st season or even the 2nd season for the most part. She was mostly just the wild child who just pops in and out. But now they're making a main focus on her. So now she's no longer the wild child. She's now serious. She's now with Harry. Then they start to have problems, and I think they have a kid later on towards the 4th season. And I can't remember if like they're together or not. But then it's like they throw in all these new characters only for them to leave the next season after that. And it's just the show got ruined the moment like Alyssa left. And the show would have lasted a lot longer if she would have stayed, because then they would never brought in these goofy storylines in the 3rd and 4th season to like spice things up. Now, this is based off of an Australian TV series. I have no idea what that series is like. I've never watched it, but from what I can tell from what I read, the characters from that show act very similar to the ones in the American version in the first season. Now, one interesting thing is that Lifetime tried to adapt this years before the ABC one, and they made like a TV pilot, and it was filmed and everything, and it actually starred one of the actresses who played April, but it also starred another Charm alumni, Holly Marie Combs. There are clips of this on YouTube, but they're very brief, and you can tell the tone is very different. It's more drama filled. Now, the actress who played April, she said, they filmed the entire pilot. It's out there somewhere in storage, but they're not allowed to like release it or nothing like that. Digimon aired on Fox Kids originally in the first 3 seasons, and it was based off, of course, a Japanese anime called Digimon. And it was brought on over here. Same thing with Pokemon. Sailor Moon is one of the biggest animes of all time to be brought over from Japan all over to America. I love Sailor Moon. I grew up with Sailor Moon as like a teen and stuff, and watching it as an adult. I'm still learning things about the original anime and manga of it. I remember when I was in the 12th grade, I actually found out that the Sailor Moon people aren't white living in Japan. They're actually Japanese people living in Japan. I mean, look at them. They look like white people. I mean, Sailor Moon has blonde hair and blue eyes. So what am I supposed to expect? I literally assumed that they were just white living on in Japan because there are actual white people living in Japan. But there are at least 3 different versions of the American Sailor Moon version. Like originally, Deke was the voice company behind it, and they Americanized the TV show. They made it into what's known as the American dub, and so they changed a lot of stuff. They changed the names of the characters. They now had American names. When you saw them driving the car, they flipped it so it made it look like more like they're driving in America. They had American style foods for their Japanese foods, and they changed the sexualities of a lot of characters because there's a lot of LGBT community stuff, and that's in Sailor Moon. Gay males of the Japanese series were changed into straight females, and you really couldn't tell. Like I couldn't tell growing up because I assumed these were girls because they all had like long flowing hair and girly looking faces. There was a lesbian couple on the series, and they made them into cousins in the American dub, which never made no sense because the way they would be hugging each other and touching each other in the American dub, it's kind of like there's no way they can be cousins unless they're kissing cousins. And it's kind of like I get why they changed that stuff because back in the 90s, LGBTQ stuff wasn't really a thing, and it was like hated, and so it's kind of like they changed it for like the American dub. But it's kind of like I kind of just wish they would have kept things the way it was because I did watch the redubbing in the Viz thing, and originally I didn't like the Viz redubbing because I'm so used to the American one. I'm so used to the voices, but I'm starting to now come on board to it because like I'm getting used to their voices and names, and it's kind of like I'm starting now to call them Sailor Guardians instead of Sailor Scouts. So I like both dubbings. Like I don't so it's kind of like one of those things. But there's so much of the new dubbing that it's kind of like I'm getting like very used to just like hearing that. But then Sailor Moon came out with a reboot called Sailor Moon Crystal. And I have mixed feelings about this new series. Now, like most people, I assume this was based off the anime from the 90s. And apparently it's based off the manga. And the manga comic book is supposed to be more darker than Sailor Moon, the anime series, because the anime was more comedic and silly. I mean, there's some silly moments, sure, in like the manga, but it's taken a bit more seriously. From what I've been told, I've never actually read it because I don't read Japanese. Power Rangers is one of the longest franchises in America. It's been around for over 25 years, and it's actually from a Japanese show called Super Sentai that, of course, Saban brought on over here. There are also other Japanese properties that get remade into American stuff, like VR Troopers is a remake. of Metal Hero, and Saban also made VR Troopers. It lasted only for 2 seasons. It was another one of his like one-hit wonder type things from, since Power Rangers is his longest lasting series. Speaking of other Saban properties that he adapted from Japan, he also adapted Kamen Rider, which is this like insectoid type like superhero. And this is a long running series over in Japan. And when he brought it to America, he made it into the Masked Rider. He did like a backdoor pilot for that Power Rangers, where they go and visit like the planet that Alpha was created on, and he meets Dax. At least I think that's his name. I think he's from Illinois or something like that. I can't remember. It's been a long time. And so like the Rangers help him out and everything, and then he goes to Earth looking for like something or another. Now I don't remember much about Masked Rider, which totally sucks. I really want to talk about it, but I really don't remember that much from it. All I remember is that they turned the show into like a sitcom type thing, where it was like a sitcom family and a racial one at that. That's one thing I like about his shows. They are very diverse. They had a white father, an Asian mother, Dr. Black son, and Dr. White daughter, and it was very diverse. And so, they do the typical sitcom shenanigans and the stuff going on at school. Then the bad guys gotta do what they gotta do. So, like, he transformed into like the Masked Rider. I think his phrase was like "ectophase activate." I remember that. And he would like transform, and he had like a car and a motorcycle, and then his like sword saber came from like his belt buckle, and then he just like whooped on like the bad guys and everything. And so I'm not really sure what got this show canceled. I believe it only lasted for 1 season. Maybe he ran out of Japanese footage. But I think I heard a rumor that the creator of Kamen Rider was very pissed about the American adaptation. And I think they asked him to stop making it. I can't remember what it was. But then many years ago, I think when I was in college, they actually adapted a Kamen Rider that was more darker in tone to that of the series. Not sure how long that lasted either. I don't think that lasted long either. And so, yeah, a lot of fans of Kamen Rider was not a fan of this adaptation. They said it was too light, too fluffy, and stuff like that. And then the original source material is more darker and grittier. I should really start looking on YouTube for some Kamen Rider stuff. I don't never really think about it. Like, I just think of Masked Rider, and that's about it, I think I was able to find like a fight sequence or something like that. I can't remember. I do remember watching it. I do remember liking it. And I do remember being like thinking, oh cool, he's like transforming and fighting. That's all like I really remember. Then there's the other series that he adapted. Big Bad Beetleborgs. And this was a show I hated to death. Saban blueprints were all over this show with the silliness, the goofiness, the wackiness, the kid superhero crap. Like, it was just too much. Like, if people didn't like Turbo for all the humor and a kid Power Ranger who turned into an adult body-wise when he morphed, what made him think people were like that in Big Bad Beetleborgs? Now, Big Bad Beetleborgs was an adaptation of a Japanese series called Metal Hero. And I'm not sure which ones that he used, but of course, it's the whole thing where like it lasted for 2 seasons. The first season had footage from one Metal Hero series, then they ran out. So then they had to do footage for like the second one with another series, and they call that Beetleborgs Metallic. Now, to be honest, I actually like Beetleborgs Metallic a whole lot better than Big Bad Beetleborgs. It just felt more mature in a way, even though it was still silly. And one of the things I just hate about it, see what it was is that like there are these kids, they went into this haunted mansion. they're like all these Frankenstein type like monsters and stuff. There's Frankenstein, there's a vampire, a werewolf, a mummy, and they were just like chasing the kids around, and they're so silly and goofy. My God, I hated this show growing up. And so then there was Flabber. Flabber was kind of like a genie, and he looked like a blue-skinned, Elvis-looking Jay Leno. I kid you not, chin and everything. And so basically, something happens where he grants them a wish, and of course, what do they want to be? Superheroes. So what does he do? He takes the heroes from their comic books and turns them into like the heroes. So they become the big bad Beetleborgs and stuff. Now the costumes look awesome. I love the costumes. Seriously, why not make an Iron Man TV show? Well, of course you can't now because Tony Stark is dead, but they're making an Ironheart series. And so on the Ironheart series, they went half practical and half CGI. So the top part from chest up is like practical, and then arms and legs is just a motion cap like suit. So I'm like, not no more CGI, goopty goop. And so they can literally do practical the whole way. I mean, if Big Bad Beetleborgs could do it, they could do it, you know what I'm saying? But the show was just so silly and goofy. And I think they came out with an additional Beetleborg. And so, but it was still just too silly and goofy. And I remember watching this, I'm like, something looked different with the girl. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but something looked different about her. Come the second season. Turns out they recast. Why they recast? I really don't know, to tell you the truth. But the first actress just didn't want to do it no more, and then they got like a new one. She just looked completely different from like the first actress. They should really do more conventions for Power Rangers. They should invite them. They should invite the VR Trooper people more, the Mass Rider, and the Beetleborg people a whole lot more. I know they did Mass Rider at one point, and the black dude who was like the black kid on the show, he did not look happy being there. You could tell he did not have no good time being on that show. He just looked grumpy the entire time. And Kat and Nakia should really bring them on for like Power Rangers playback. Cause that should be so. I want to see what they're up to nowadays. I want to see what they look like nowadays. Alrighty. Well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.